Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, The Quiet Storm. Staff Sergeant Daniel Danny Hayes sat on Sergeant Ronnie Miller's leather couch, nursing his third beer of the evening. The TV played a football game neither man watched, serving only as background noise to their conversation about the old days. Remember that night in Kandahar? Ronnie leaned forward, his eyes bright with nostalgia. When Thompson thought he saw a snake in his sleeping bag. Poor bastard screamed like a kid, Danny said, his voice deep and controlled. He took another sip of his beer, memories of Afghanistan floating through his mind. The war had shaped him, hardened him into the man he was today. At 38, Danny carried himself with the rigid posture of a career military man. His muscular frame and weathered features spoke of countless missions and endless training sessions. Ronnie chuckled, running a hand through his graying hair. Those were simpler times, weren't they? Just us against the world. Speaking of simpler times, Danny said, placing his beer on the coffee table. Heard about your promotion. Congratulations, brother. You earned it. Thanks, man. Ronnie's face lit up. Colonel says I'm taking over the Advanced Training Division next month. Better hours, better pay. Sarah's already planning what to do with the extra money. Danny nodded, thinking about his own wife, Eleanor. She'd been distant lately, spending more time on her phone and making excuses to avoid their usual dinner dates. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on his friend's achievement. You'll make a hell of an instructor, Danny said. Those recruits won't know what hit them. What about you? Ronnie asked, his expression growing serious. Still thinking about taking that deployment to South Korea? Danny shrugged. Eleanor's not too happy about it. Says we need to spend more time together, work on our marriage. He let out a heavy breath. Maybe she's right. Marriage takes work, Ronnie agreed, though his tone suggested he knew there was more to the story. How's Caleb doing at college? Kid's thriving. Top of his class in engineering. Pride crept into Danny's voice. He's got his mother's brains and my discipline. Meanwhile, across town in the Hayes residence, Eleanor paced in the kitchen, her phone pressed to her ear. At 35, she remained strikingly beautiful, with honey blonde hair and sharp green eyes that could charm anyone she set her sights on. Today, those eyes sparkled with excitement as she spoke in hushed tones. Gavin, baby, it's perfect, she whispered, glancing out the window at the empty driveway. Danny's at Ronnie's place. He won't be back for hours. On the other end of the line, Gavin Marshall's smooth voice replied, Are you sure about this, El? Once we start, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything. Eleanor's lips curved into a cruel smile. I'm tired of living this lie. Danny's never here, always putting the military first. Do you know he's thinking about another deployment? After everything I've sacrificed. You deserve better, Gavin agreed. His voice dripped with practiced sympathy, though his eyes, had Eleanor been able to see them, remained cold and calculating. But the plan has to be perfect. We can't afford any mistakes. The life insurance policy is ironclad. $2 million, double indemnity for accidents. Eleanor's voice dropped even lower. Stone knows what to do. Stone's the best in the business. Clean, professional, untraceable. Gavin paused. But El, are you absolutely certain? He's still your husband. Eleanor's laugh was bitter. My husband? Danny stopped being my husband years ago. He's just a stranger who sleeps in my bed when he's not playing soldier. She moved to the living room, running her fingers over a framed photo of Danny in his dress uniform. I want my freedom, Gavin. I want a life with you. What Eleanor couldn't see was Gavin's expression as he sat in his restaurant office, feet propped on his desk. His handsome face showed no emotion as he listened to Eleanor's declarations of love. Behind him, Stone stood silently, a mountain of a man with dead eyes and scarred knuckles. Soon, baby, Gavin promised, winking at Stone. Just stick to the plan, and we'll have everything we want. Their conversation was interrupted by an unexpected sound, the front door opening. Eleanor froze, her heart pounding, but it wasn't Danny. Instead, Caleb Hayes stepped into the house, his backpack slung over one shoulder. The 18-year-old moved quietly, intending to surprise his mother, but stopped short when he heard her voice. "Someone's here," Eleanor whispered urgently into the phone. "I'll call you back." But Caleb had already heard enough to make his blood run cold. He pressed himself against the wall, pulling out his phone and hitting record. His mother's voice drifted from the kitchen, resuming her conversation after apparently checking the front hall and missing him in the shadows. "Sorry, false alarm," Eleanor said. "Now, about Stone. You're sure he can make it look like an accident? Trust me, Al?" Gavin's voice was clear enough for Caleb to hear. "Stone's handled plenty of similar situations. Your military hero won't know what hit him." Caleb's hands shook as he recorded the conversation, his mind racing. His mother, the woman who'd packed his lunches and kissed his scraped knees, was plotting to murder his father. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. A floorboard creaked behind him. Before Caleb could react, massive hands grabbed him. He spun around to face Stone, whose expression remained impassive as he drove a fist into Caleb's stomach. The phone clattered to the floor as Caleb gasped for air. Eleanor emerged from the kitchen, her face pale as she saw her son struggling with Stone. "Caleb?" Her voice trembled. "What are you doing here?" "Mom," Caleb wheezed, still fighting against Stone's grip. "How could you?" Stone didn't wait for Eleanor's response. He dragged Caleb toward the building's elevator, ignoring the young man's attempts to break free. Eleanor watched, frozen in horror, as Stone forced the elevator doors open and, with brutal efficiency, threw Caleb down the shaft. The sickening thud echoed through the building. Eleanor screamed, the sound more theatrical than genuine. Stone calmly retrieved Caleb's shattered phone, crushing it in his massive hand. "It's done," Stone said, his first words of the evening. "Call Gavin." Eleanor's hands trembled as she dialed, her voice breaking as she relayed what happened. In his office, Gavin cursed. "This changes everything," he snapped. "Get out of there, both of you. I'll send someone to clean up the mess." As Eleanor and Stone fled the scene, Caleb lay broken at the bottom of the elevator shaft, clinging to consciousness. Through the haze of pain, he focused on one thought. He had to warn his father. Chapter 2. Shattered Realities. The call came at midnight. Danny sat in Roni's living room, their conversation having shifted to upcoming training exercises, when his phone buzzed. The unknown number made him frown. "Staff Sergeant Hayes," he answered, his voice crisp and professional. "Sergeant Hayes, this is Officer Martinez from Metro PD." The voice on the other end was grave. "There's been an incident involving your son, Caleb. He's been taken to Memorial Hospital in critical condition." Danny's fingers tightened on the phone. "What happened?" "He was found at the bottom of your building's elevator shaft. We're treating it as a potential assault case." The world didn't tilt or spin for Danny Hayes. Instead, it sharpened into crystal clarity, his military training taking over. "I'm on my way." Ronnie, seeing his friend's expression, was already on his feet. "What's wrong?" "Caleb's hurt." Danny grabbed his jacket, his movements precise and controlled. "Someone put my boy in the hospital." "I'm driving," Ronnie said, snatching his keys. He knew that look in Danny's eyes. It was the same one he'd worn in combat, right before things got lethal. The drive to Memorial Hospital took 12 minutes. Danny spent each one in silence, his mind racing through possibilities, cataloging questions. Why was Caleb home? Who would want to hurt him? Where was Eleanor? The emergency room buzzed with activity, but Danny moved through it like a missile locked on target. He found Caleb's room in the ICU, his heart clenching at the sight of his son connected to various machines. "Mr. Hayes?" A doctor approached, clipboard in hand. "I'm Dr. Chun. Your son has multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and a concussion. We've stabilized him, but the next 24 hours are crucial." Danny nodded, his expression revealing nothing of the rage building inside him. "Is he conscious?" "In and out. Try not to agitate him." Danny approached the bed, taking Caleb's hand. His son's eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly on his father's face. "Dad," Caleb whispered, his voice barely audible. "Had to warn you. Save your strength, son." "No." Caleb's grip tightened weakly. "Mom, she's planning with Gavin." Danny leaned closer, his voice soft but intense. "Planning what, Caleb?" "Your murder." The words seemed to drain what little energy Caleb had. Heard them, recorded it. Stone caught me. Stones. Gavin's guy. Threw me. Caleb's eyes closed, exhaustion claiming him. Danny straightened, his face a mask of controlled fury. He'd known Eleanor was unhappy, had sensed her growing distant. But this? Planning his murder with her lover? Using some thug to silence their own son? Two police officers entered the room, badges displayed. Sergeant Hayes? I'm Detective Wilson. This is Detective Cooper. We need to ask you some questions. Danny turned to face them, his expression neutral. My son's resting. We understand, but this is a serious matter. There are signs of foul play. I appreciate your concern, Danny said, his tone making it clear he didn't. But right now, my priority is my son's recovery. Detective Wilson pressed on. Sir, we need to know if Caleb had any enemies. Anyone who might want to hurt him. My son's a college student who works part-time at a library. Danny's voice remained steady. He doesn't have enemies? And your wife? We haven't been able to reach her. I was at a friend's house. I don't know where Eleanor is. The lie came easily. Danny had no intention of sharing what Caleb had told him. This wasn't a matter for the police anymore. The detectives exchanged glances, clearly unsatisfied with Danny's responses. We'll need to take a formal statement. Tomorrow, Danny said firmly. I'm not leaving my son tonight. After the police left, Danny pulled out his phone. He had calls to make, favors to call in. Eleanor, Gavin, and this Stone character had no idea what they'd unleashed. Danny Hayes hadn't survived 3 combat tours by being weak or forgiving. He dialed a number from memory. Jake, it's Hayes. Remember that debt you owe me from Fallujah? I'm calling it in. Chapter 3, Seeds of Vengeance. The hospital room settled into an uneasy quiet, broken only by the steady beep of monitors tracking Caleb's vital signs. Danny sat in the uncomfortable chair beside his son's bed, his mind working through everything he'd learned. 15 years of marriage played through his thoughts like a tactical briefing. Eleanor had been different when they first met, a dedicated nurse who understood the demands of his military career. She'd supported him through deployments, celebrated his promotions, built a life together. When had that woman become someone capable of plotting his murder? He remembered the small changes. Her growing frustration with military life, the subtle complaints about money despite their comfortable living, the way she'd stopped attending unit functions. Danny had attributed it to the natural strain of military marriage, had tried to compensate by being more present when he was home. Sir? A nurse poked her head in. There's a call for you at the nurse's station. Says he's your commanding officer. Danny nodded, squeezing Caleb's hand before stepping out. Colonel Matthews' voice was gruff with concern. Hayes, I heard about Caleb. What do you need? Information, sir. Danny's voice was cold. I need everything you can find on a local restaurant owner named Gavin and his associate, Stone. Off the books. A pause. This related to what happened to your boy. Yes, sir. Give me an hour. The colonel hung up without another word. Danny returned to Caleb's room, pulling out his laptop. While he waited for Matthew's information, he began his own investigation. Social media revealed plenty about Gavin Marshall, owner of the Blue Room, one of the city's trendiest restaurants. Photos showed a man in his early 40s, expensively dressed, surrounded by admiring patrons. Danny's phone buzzed with a text from Matthews containing several encrypted files. The information painted an interesting picture. Gavin Marshall was swimming in gambling debts, using his restaurant to launder money for local criminals. His enforcer, Marcus Stone Sullivan, had a record of assault charges that mysteriously disappeared before trial. A soft knock interrupted his research. Ronnie stood in the doorway, his face grim. Got your message. What's the plan? Eleanor's planning to have me killed, Danny said without preamble. She's working with a local criminal named Gavin Marshall. Their enforcer threw Caleb down an elevator shaft to keep him quiet. Ronnie's eyes widened, then narrowed dangerously. What do you need? Surveillance equipment. Weapons. Clean phones. Danny's voice was matter-of-fact. And your help tracking them down before they realize Caleb survived. You're going to kill them? No. Danny's smile was terrible to behold. Death would be too quick. I'm going to destroy them completely. Take everything they value, piece by piece, until they wish they were dead. Ronnie nodded slowly. I'll make some calls. But Danny, this has to be handled carefully. One wrong move. I know. Danny looked at his son's battered face. But they crossed the line when they hurt my boy. There's no going back now. While Danny plotted his revenge, Eleanor paced in Gavin's office above the blue room. We have to leave town. Danny will figure it out. Calm down, Gavin snapped, pouring himself a drink. Stone handled it. Handled it? Eleanor's laugh was hysterical. He threw my son down an elevator shaft. This wasn't part of the plan. Plans change. Gavin's charming mask slipped, revealing something cold beneath. Your son was recording us. What did you expect Stone to do? Ask him nicely to keep quiet? Stone stood silently by the door, his massive frame blocking the exit. Eleanor looked between them, suddenly aware of how alone she was. Danny will kill us, she whispered. You don't know him like I do. When he finds out. If he finds out, Gavin corrected. And by then, we'll be long gone. The insurance policy pays double for accidents, remember? Eleanor sank into a chair, her perfectly manicured hands shaking. I just wanted to be free. To be with you. Gavin didn't respond, just sipped his drink and stared out the window. He had no intention of staying with Eleanor. She was just a means to an end, a way to pay off his debts and start fresh. But she didn't need to know that yet. Back at the hospital, Danny received another call, this one from Jake Martinez, his former surveillance expert. Found them, boss, Jake reported. They're holed up at the blue room. Wanting to keep eyes on? Yes. Danny stood, stretching his cramped muscles. Let me know if they move. And Jake? Thank you. No thanks needed. Nobody hurts family. Danny touched Caleb's forehead gently. I'll be back soon, son. Rest easy. Dad's going to take care of everything. He met Ronnie in the hospital parking lot. His friend handed him a duffel bag. Burner phones, surveillance gear, and a few other things you might need, Ronnie said quietly. The guns are clean, untraceable. Danny nodded, taking the bag. I need you to stay with Caleb. Don't let anyone but the medical staff near him. What about Eleanor, if she shows up? Especially not Eleanor. Danny's voice turned to steel. Call me immediately if she tries. As Danny drove toward the blue room, his phone rang. Eleanor's name flashed on the screen. He answered, keeping his voice neutral. Danny. Eleanor's voice trembled. I just heard about Caleb. Is he okay? Where were you, Eleanor? I was out shopping. Danny, please, what happened to our son? Danny's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Someone threw him down an elevator shaft. Someone named Stone. Ring any bells? The silence on the other end was deafening. When Eleanor spoke again, her voice was different, calculated. Danny, I don't know what you're talking about. You're not making sense. You must be in shock. We're done, Eleanor. Don't come home. Don't try to see Caleb. Your things will be packed and sent wherever you want them. Danny, wait. Let me explain. He hung up, turning off his phone. The time for talking was over. At the blue room, Eleanor stared at her phone in panic. He knows. Oh God, he knows. Impossible, Gavin snapped, but his face had lost some color. Stone, are you sure the kid didn't say anything before? Stone shook his head silently. We need to leave now, Eleanor insisted. You don't understand what Danny's capable of. In Afghanistan, Shut up. Gavin slammed his glass down. No one's going anywhere. If we run, we look guilty. We stick to the plan. Stone will handle Hayes, just like he handled the kid. Eleanor looked at Stone's impassive face and shuddered. She'd wanted freedom, wanted excitement with Gavin. But now she felt trapped between two dangerous men. One she'd betrayed, and one she was beginning to fear she never really knew. Danny parked a block from the blue room, setting up surveillance equipment in a vacant office building with a clear view of the restaurant. Through high-powered lenses, he watched Eleanor pacing in Gavin's office, watched Gavin drinking and making angry phone calls, watched Stone standing guard like a statue. His phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Got the building plans you requested. Sending now. Danny studied the blueprints of the blue room, memorizing exits, electrical panels, gas lines. His training kicked in automatically. Identify vulnerabilities, plan contingencies, control the battlefield. Another text from Jake. Financial records show Gavin's underwater. Owes money to some serious people. Wanting to make some calls? Not yet. Danny replied. Let them stew. He watched through the lens as Eleanor and Gavin argued, their gestures becoming more animated. Stone moved between them, separating them with his bulk. The scene confirmed what Danny had already suspected. Their alliance was fragile, built on lies and desperation. His phone buzzed again, this time from Ronnie. Caleb's awake. Doctors say he's stabilizing. He's asking for you. Danny packed up his equipment. He had what he needed for now, confirmation of their location, their patterns, their dynamics. The rest could wait. His son needed him. Back at the hospital, Caleb was propped up slightly, his eyes clearer. Dad, I'm here, son. Danny took his hand. How's the pain? Been better. Caleb attempted a weak smile. Did you get my message? About Mom? I got it. Don't worry about that now. Focus on getting stronger. Dad. Caleb's grip tightened slightly. What are you going to do? Danny met his son's eyes. What needs to be done? They're going to pay for hurting you, but I need you to trust me. Don't tell the police anything yet. Caleb nodded slowly. I trust you, Dad. A nurse entered to check Caleb's vitals, and Danny stepped into the hallway. Ronnie followed. The doctors want to keep him for observation, Ronnie reported. At least a week. Good. That gives me time. Danny's face was hard. Eleanor, Gavin, Stone, they think they're hunters. Time to show them what it feels like to be prey. As night fell over the city, 3 people sat in a restaurant office, unaware they were already caught in a web of their own making. And in a hospital room, a father watched over his son, his mind calculating, planning, preparing for the retribution to come. The foundation of deceit had been laid, and now the real hunt would begin. Chapter 4. The Shadow Stalker. Danny Hayes sat in his makeshift command center, surrounded by surveillance equipment and monitors. The abandoned office space, rented under a false name, gave him a perfect view of the Blue Room. 3 screens displayed different angles of the restaurant's exterior, while a 4th showed thermal imaging of the interior. Targets on the move. Jake's voice crackled through the radio. Eleanor just left through the back entrance, heading east on foot. Danny adjusted his earpiece. Stay on her. What about the others? Gavin's still inside with Stone. They're arguing about something. Through high-powered microphones, Danny could hear fragments of their heated discussion. Gavin's voice rose in anger. She's becoming a liability. This wasn't supposed to get complicated. Phone taps active, Ronnie reported, joining Danny at the monitors. He handed over a tablet displaying text messages and call logs. They're planning to split up. Eleanor spooked. Danny studied the messages between Eleanor and Gavin. His wife had been busy. Multiple bank transfers, whispered promises, desperate pleas for reassurance. But it was Gavin's messages to someone else that caught his attention. Look at this. Danny pointed to a thread. Gavin's got another woman, some model named Victoria. He's been promising her the same things he promised Eleanor. Ronnie whistled low. Man's playing with fire. Time to add fuel. Danny pulled out a burner phone and typed a message, sending it to Eleanor's number. Check your lover boy's Instagram DMs with Victoria. Thought you should know. A friend. Within minutes, Eleanor's dot on the GPS tracker stopped moving, then reversed direction. Danny allowed himself a small, cold smile. She's heading back to the Blue Room. You're going to let them tear each other apart? Phase 1. Danny checked his weapons. A combat knife strapped to his ankle, a suppressed pistol at his back. Divide and conquer. Military Strategy 101. Across town, Eleanor burst into Gavin's office, her face flushed with rage. You lying bastard. All this time? Gavin looked up from his desk, confusion quickly masked by charm. Baby, what's wrong? Don't baby me. She thrust her phone in his face. Victoria? The swimsuit model? How long have you been playing me? Stone moved from his corner, but Gavin waved him back. Eleanor, you're not thinking clearly. Who sent you those messages? Does it matter? They're real, aren't they? Eleanor's voice cracked. I gave up everything for you. My marriage, my family, my son. Your son? Gavin's charm vanished. You mean the witness who could send us all to prison? The one who survived thanks to Stone's incompetence. Stone's massive frame tensed, but he remained silent. Don't you dare blame this on Stone. Eleanor's laugh was hysterical. This was your plan. You promised me freedom, love, and new life. But you're just like Danny said, a user. Like Danny said? Gavin's eyes narrowed. When exactly did you talk to Danny? Eleanor realized her mistake too late. Gavin nodded to Stone, who moved to block the door. Have you been in contact with your husband this whole time? Gavin's voice dropped dangerously. Playing both sides, Eleanor? No. He called me about Caleb. That's all. Eleanor backed away, but Stone was behind her. Gavin, please. Search her, Gavin ordered. Stone's huge hands patted Eleanor down, finding her phone. He tossed it to Gavin. Danny watched the scene unfold through his surveillance feed. Eleanor's panic was visible even on the thermal imaging. Jake, what's your position? Northwest corner, clear view of the office. Want me to move in? Negative. Let it play out. Gavin scrolled through Eleanor's phone, his face darkening. Interesting call history, El. Lots of unknown numbers. And these text messages. Warning us about police surveillance? Trying to save your own skin. It's not what you think. Eleanor tried to snatch her phone back, but Stone held her arms. I was protecting us. Us. Gavin laughed. There is no us. There never was. You were a means to an end, insurance money, and a clean getaway. But now, he nodded to Stone. Take her to the basement. We need to have a longer conversation about loyalty. Danny's radio crackled. Sir, they're moving Eleanor downstairs. Want me to maintain visual? Negative. Fall back to position 2. Time to move to phase 2. Danny checked his watch. Ronnie, you in position? Ready when you are. Security cameras are looped, alarm systems disabled. Danny stood, checking his equipment one final time. Remember, no one moves without my signal. We're doing this by the book. Meanwhile, in the Blue Room's basement, Eleanor sat tied to a chair, mascara running down her cheeks. Gavin, please. I can explain everything. Explain what? Gavin paced before her. How you've been feeding information to Danny. How you're probably wearing a wire right now. No, I swear. Stone searched her, finding nothing. Gavin's paranoia had reached new heights. You know what your problem is, Eleanor? Gavin leaned close, his handsome face twisted with contempt. You think you're smarter than everyone else? Play me against Danny, Danny against me. But you're just a bored housewife who watched too many soap operas. Eleanor's fear turned to anger. And you're just a two-bit con man drowning in gambling debts. You think I didn't know about that? About the money you stole from the restaurant? About the people you owe? Gavin's hand cracked across her face. Shut up. Truth hurts, doesn't it? Eleanor spat blood. Danny will find us. And when he does... When I do what? Danny's voice came from the darkness. Stone spun, reaching for his weapon, but 2 tranquilizer darts caught him in the neck. The massive man stumbled, then crashed to the floor. Gavin went for his gun, but Danny was faster. A suppressed shot took Gavin in the knee, dropping him with a scream. Hello, Eleanor. Danny stepped into the light, his face expressionless. Miss me? Chapter 5. The News Titans. Danny moved through the basement, securing Gavin and Stone with zip ties. Eleanor remained bound to her chair, watching her husband with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. Danny, thank God. They were going to kill me. Like you were going to kill me? Danny's voice was conversational as he checked Stone's restraints. The big man was completely unconscious, breathing steadily. No. I mean, yes, but I changed my mind. I was trying to warn you. Warn me? Danny turned to her, his eyes cold. After Stone threw our son down an elevator shaft? After you plotted my murder for the insurance money? That's when you decided to grow a conscience? Gavin groaned on the floor, clutching his bleeding knee. She's lying to you, Hayes. She planned everything. The insurance, the accident, all of it. I know. Danny knelt beside Gavin, applying a tourniquet to his leg. I know exactly what each of you planned. You see, I had time to do my research. He pulled out a phone, playing a recording. Eleanor's voice, sweet and seductive, discussing murder methods with Gavin. Then another recording. Gavin laughing with Victoria about his desperate housewife meal ticket. I've spent weeks gathering evidence, Danny continued. Bank records, text messages, surveillance footage. You 3 weren't as clever as you thought. What are you going to do? Eleanor's voice trembled. Justice. Danny pressed his radio. Ronnie, status? All clear upstairs. Jake's got the perimeter secured. Good. Start with the office. I want everything. Eleanor watched Danny direct his team, remembering the quiet, dutiful husband she'd thought she knew. This man was different. Harder, colder, more dangerous than she'd ever imagined. Danny, please, she tried again. We can work this out. For Caleb's sake. Don't say his name. Danny's voice could have frozen fire. You lost that right when you chose this piece of garbage over your own son. Gavin attempted to bargain. Hayes, be reasonable. I've got money connections. We can make a deal. A deal? Danny pulled up another recording on his phone. Like the deal you made with the Mendoza cartel? Or the money you've been laundering through your restaurant? Gavin's face went pale. How did you? I told you. I did my research. Right now, the DEA is receiving an anonymous tip about your operation, along with bank records, supplier lists, and surveillance footage. You can't do this. Gavin struggled against his restraints. They'll kill me. Should have thought of that before you sent Stone after my son. Danny turned to the unconscious enforcer. Speaking of whom, he pulled out a file. Marcus Stone Sullivan. 3 assault charges, 2 attempted murders, all mysteriously dropped. But not this time. This time there are witnesses, DNA evidence, and a victim who can testify. He'll never talk, Gavin spat. He won't have to. Danny held up a familiar object, Caleb's shattered phone. Your boy didn't destroy it completely. Our tech team recovered the recording. Stone's voice is quite distinctive when he's threatening an 18-year-old kid. Eleanor started sobbing. Danny, I'm sorry. I was unhappy, confused. Shut up. Danny's command was quiet but absolute. I'm not interested in your excuses. I'm interested in justice. He pressed his radio again. Ronnie, found those account books yet? Better. Got his laptop. Full access to all his accounts and communications. Transfer everything, then wipe it clean. Jake, status on the surveillance? Cameras are showing our edited footage. As far as anyone knows, these 3 left town hours ago. Danny nodded, satisfaction flickering across his face. Phase 2 complete. Begin Phase 3. What's Phase 3? Eleanor asked, dreading the answer. Consequences. Danny pulled out a syringe. But first, you 3 are going somewhere more private. Can't have any interruptions. You're going to kill us? Gavin's voice cracked. Kill you? Danny prepared the injection with practiced ease. No. Death is too quick, too kind. You're going to live to watch everything you value stripped away, piece by piece. He injected each of them in turn. As they began to lose consciousness, Danny's voice was the last thing they heard. Welcome to your nightmare. Chapter 6, The Predator Strikes. The warehouse Danny had chosen sat on the outskirts of town, far from prying eyes. Inside, 3 figures were secured to metal chairs, arranged in a triangle so each could see the others. As the sedatives wore off, Eleanor, Gavin, and Stone found themselves in a stark room lit by a single, harsh light. Danny stood in the center, still in his tactical gear. 2 laptops were set up on a table, screens glowing with financial data and surveillance feeds. Good, you're awake? Danny's voice echoed in the space. Time to begin. Begin what? Gavin tried to sound defiant, but fear crept into his voice. Your education. Danny turned one laptop so they could see the screen. Let's start with you, Gavin. Your finances make for interesting reading. The screen showed bank statements, transfer records, offshore accounts. You've been busy, Danny continued. Skimming from the restaurant, laundering cartel money, embezzling from your investors. But the really interesting part? He clicked to a new screen. The money you've been stealing from Eleanor. Eleanor's head snapped up. What? Show her, Gavin. Tell her about the accounts you opened in her name. The loans you took out using her social security number. The credit cards you maxed out. He's lying. Gavin protested, but his face betrayed him. Danny pulled up more documents. 3 mortgages on properties she's never seen. 5 business loans for companies that don't exist. And the piece de resistance, a life insurance policy on her, with you as the beneficiary. Eleanor stared at Gavin, realization dawning. You were going to kill me too? Now she gets it. Danny's laugh held no humor. You weren't his partner, Eleanor. You were his mark. Just like the others, he showed them photographs, other women, other scams, other victims. Gavin here is quite a history, but he got sloppy this time. Left too many traces. What did you do? Gavin asked, seeing his whole life displayed on the screen. I took everything. Danny pressed a key. Your accounts are empty. Your property's seized. Your restaurant? Under investigation for health code violations, tax fraud, and criminal enterprise. Gavin lunged against his restraints. You can't do this. I already did. Danny turned to Stone. Your turn, big man. Want to tell them about the recordings? Stone remained silent, but his eyes widened slightly. No. I'll tell them. Danny played an audio file. Stone's voice discussing past jobs with an undercover officer. Amazing what people will say when they think they're talking to a potential employer. You set me up? Stone spoke for the first time, his deep voice rough. Didn't have to. Just had to find the right people to talk to. Show them the right evidence. Danny pulled up police reports, witness statements, DNA records. You left quite a trail of bodies, Stone. Time to answer for them. Eleanor watched her husband work, seeing a side of him she'd never known existed. This wasn't the quiet military man who read the paper on Sunday mornings. This was someone else, someone who knew how to break people. And you, Eleanor? Danny turned to his wife. You thought you were so clever, playing everyone against each other. The grieving military wife, the seductive mistress, the concerned mother. He showed her text messages, photos, recordings of her own voice plotting his murder. Your parents have already seen these. So have your friends, your co-workers, your church group. Everyone knows what you really are now. Eleanor broke down completely. Please, Danny. I'll do anything. Anything? Danny's voice was soft, dangerous. Like you did anything for Gavin? For our son. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. You wanted excitement? Eleanor? Adventure? Well, congratulations. You got it. Welcome to your new reality, where everything you valued, everything you built, everything you stole is gone. Danny stepped back, surveying his captives. You have two choices now. Option 1, confess. Tell the police everything. Take your punishment like adults. Option 2. He smiled, and it was terrible to behold. I continue dismantling your lives, piece by piece, day by day, until there's nothing left but the truth. You're insane, Gavin whispered. No. Danny's voice was calm. I'm a father protecting his son. I'm a soldier delivering justice. I'm the consequence of your actions. He turned to leave, pausing at the door. Think about your choices. I'll be back in an hour. Oh, and don't bother trying to escape. The room is monitored, and my friends outside are very good at their jobs. The door closed, leaving the three conspirators alone with their fears and the weight of their decisions. They looked at each other, former allies now turned enemies, each wondering who would break first. Danny stood outside, listening to their accusations and recriminations through his earpiece. Phase 3 was complete. Now he just had to wait for them to destroy each other. Chapter 7. The Price of Betrayal. The warehouse stood silent as police vehicles surrounded it, red and blue lights painting the walls. Detective Wilson approached the entrance, gun drawn, followed by his team. The anonymous tip had been specific, 3 suspects inside, all restrained. They found Eleanor, Gavin, and Stone exactly as described. Each bore signs of interrogation, not brutal enough to be illegal, but precise enough to break them. Stone's massive frame slumped in his chair, his usual stoic demeanor shattered. Gavin nursed his wounded knee, mumbling incoherently about bank accounts and lost millions. Eleanor sat rigid, mascara streaked down her face, repeating, he knew everything over and over. Call the paramedics, Wilson ordered, holstering his weapon. And get CSI in here. The evidence laid out was meticulous. Financial records, surveillance footage, recorded confessions. Everything needed to build multiple cases, wrapped up like a gift for the prosecution. Across town, Danny's phone buzzed. Roni's voice came through, tense with anger. They found them. What the hell did you do? What needed to be done? Danny sat in his makeshift command center, systematically destroying hard drives and wiping servers. The hell it was? Stone looks like he went 10 rounds with a Special Forces unit. Gavin's babbling about torture. And Eleanor. Ronnie paused. She's broken, Danny. Completely broken. Good. Good. Listen to yourself. This isn't you. The old me died when they tried to kill my son. Danny's voice remained steady. You want to judge me? Fine. But remember who helped set up the surveillance. That was different. I thought we were gathering evidence. Not. Ronnie struggled for words. The police are going to investigate. They'll trace it back to you. No, they won't. Stone won't talk. He's got too much to lose. Gavin's reputation is destroyed. His criminal connections exposed. Eleanor. Danny's lips tightened. Eleanor knows what happens to people who cross me now. In the interrogation room at the police station, Detective Wilson faced Eleanor across a metal table. Mrs. Hayes, we need your statement. Eleanor stared at her hands. You wouldn't believe me. Try me. Danny. He knew everything. Our plans, the insurance scam, Gavin's other women. She looked up, eyes haunted. He made us watch as he destroyed everything we had. Piece by piece. Bank accounts emptied. Reputations ruined. Secrets exposed. Are you saying your husband did this? Eleanor laughed, the sound brittle. Prove it. He left no traces. No evidence. Just like in the military. The perfect operation. Wilson pushed a pad of paper toward her. Write it down. All of it. Why? So you can go after him. Eleanor picked up the pen. You don't understand. He won. He broke us completely. And the worst part? Her hand trembled. We deserved it. At the hospital, Danny visited Caleb. His son was recovering well, though the physical therapy would take months. The police found them, Danny said, taking Caleb's hand. Mom, she'll face charges. They all will. Danny's voice softened slightly. You don't need to testify. The evidence speaks for itself. Did you? Caleb hesitated. What did you do to them? Nothing they didn't deserve. Danny met his son's eyes. They planned to murder me for money. They hurt you to cover it up. Actions have consequences. The police came by earlier, Caleb said. Asked a lot of questions about you. Let them ask. Focus on getting stronger. A knock interrupted them. Ronnie stood in the doorway, his face grim. Danny, we need to talk. Now. In the hallway, Ronnie handed Danny a phone. They're building a case against you. Wilson's determined to prove you orchestrated everything. Let him try. Danny scrolled through the messages. Our tracks are covered. The warehouse lease, the surveillance equipment, the financial trails. All dead ends. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Danny deleted the messages. Eleanor and her lovers destroyed themselves. I just helped them along. And the torture? The psychological warfare? Enhanced interrogation. Danny's smile was cold. Nothing illegal. Nothing provable. Just enough to break them. Back in his hospital room, Caleb watched his father through the window. The man who'd taught him to fish, helped with his homework, cheered at his graduation. That man was gone. In his place stood someone harder, colder, shaped by betrayal into something dangerous. Mr. Hayes? A nurse approached Danny. There's a detective here to see you. Wilson appeared, notepad in hand. We need to discuss what happened at the warehouse. Do we? Danny's expression gave nothing away. 3 people were held captive, tortured psychologically, their lives systematically destroyed. Wilson studied Danny's face. That takes resources, training, military expertise. Sounds like you have theories. I have evidence? No, Danny said softly. You have suspicions, but what you don't have is proof. What you can prove is that 3 people conspired to commit murder for insurance money. That they attempted to kill my son to cover it up. Focus on that, detective. Wilson stepped closer. This isn't over, Hayes. Yes, it is. Danny turned away. My son needs me. Chapter 8. Healing and Acceptance. 3 months passed. Danny and Caleb moved to a small house in a neighboring town, away from the whispers and stares. Caleb's physical therapy progressed well, though he still walked with a slight limp. You sure about this? Caleb asked as they unpacked boxes. Moving away from everything? Fresh start. Danny arranged Caleb's textbooks on a shelf. The trial's over. Eleanor, Gavin, and Stone are in prison. Time to move forward. The therapist called again. Danny paused. Did she? She thinks it would help. Processing everything that happened. I processed it just fine. Dad. Caleb touched his father's arm. What you did? I understand why. But carrying that weight alone. Danny looked at his son. No longer the boy in the family photos, but a young man who'd seen too much too soon. Fine. One session. Dr. Sarah Chin's office was comfortable but professional. Danny sat rigidly in the leather chair, evaluating sight lines and exits out of habit. Mr. Hayes, Dr. Chin began. Why are you here? My son insisted. And why do you think he's concerned? Danny's laugh held no humor. Because I systematically destroyed the people who tried to kill me and hurt him. Tell me about that decision. What decision? They chose their path. I simply helped them reach their destination. Dr. Chin leaned forward. You could have let the police handle it. The police? Danny's voice hardened. While they gathered evidence, filed warrants, followed procedures, while Eleanor and her lovers escaped. No. Justice needed to be immediate, absolute, and the torture? Enhanced interrogation. Danny's correction was automatic. Nothing illegal. Nothing that left permanent marks. Just enough to break them. Break them? They needed to understand consequences. Feel the same helplessness Caleb felt at the bottom of that elevator shaft. Danny's hands clenched. I wanted them to know what it feels like when someone takes everything you value. And now? How do you feel? I feel... Danny considered. Satisfied. They'll never hurt anyone again. Caleb is safe. Justice was served. At what cost to you? Cost? Danny stood, pacing. I lost my wife years ago. She just didn't tell me. Lost my faith in people, in love and trust. But I gained something too. What's that? Clarity. Understanding what I'm capable of. What I'll do to protect my son. Dr. Chin made a note. Do you regret any of it? No. Danny's response was immediate. I regret not seeing Eleanor's betrayal sooner. Not protecting Caleb better. But what I did to them. They earned every moment. The session continued, Dr. Chin probing Danny's experiences, his military background, his transformation from husband to avenger. Danny answered honestly, but selectively, revealing enough to satisfy Caleb's concerns without exposing his deeper methods. At home, Caleb waited on the porch. How was it? Enlightening. Danny sat beside him. She thinks I need to process my trauma. Don't we all? Danny looked at his son, stronger now but changed. The innocence was gone, replaced by something harder, more knowing. Like father, like son. We process in our own ways, Danny said. Some people need words. Others need action. And revenge? Justice, Danny corrected. Revenge is emotional. Justice is rational. Calculated. Caleb nodded slowly. Like you were? Yes. They sat in companionable silence, watching the neighborhood children play. Normal lives, normal families, normal problems. They'd never be that again. I don't regret it, Danny said finally. Any of it. They made their choices. I know. Caleb's voice was quiet. Sometimes I hear Mom's voice in my dreams. Planning your murder. Then Stone's hands grabbing me. Danny's arm went around his son's shoulders. They can't hurt us anymore. All three will die in prison. Because of what you did. Because of what they did. Danny's correction was gentle but firm. I just ensured they face consequences. Chapter 9. The Dawn of a New Day. Years passed. Caleb graduated college with honors, his engineering degree opening doors across the country. Danny lived quietly, working as a private security consultant. They spoke weekly, sharing their lives while carefully avoiding certain topics. Then the call came. Eleanor, found dead in her prison cell. She took her own life, the officials said. No note, no explanation needed. Danny and Caleb stood at the grave, watching the simple service. No mourners came. Eleanor's betrayal had destroyed all her relationships. Even her parents had disowned her. You okay? Caleb asked. Yes. Danny's voice held no emotion. She made her choices. Do you think she really killed herself? Danny didn't answer. They both knew about his occasional consulting trips, his unexplained absences. Some questions were better left unasked. I forgive her, Caleb said suddenly. Danny looked at his son, surprised. Why? Not for her sake. For mine. Caleb touched the gravestone. Holding on to hate. It changes you? Yes, Danny agreed. It does. They drove home in silence. The family photo still sat on Danny's mantelpiece, a reminder of what was lost, what was gained, what was changed forever. We made it, Dad, Caleb said, studying the picture. Despite everything, we did. Danny picked up the frame, remembering the man he'd been, the husband who trusted, the father who protected, the soldier who served. All those pieces reformed into something new, something harder, colder, more absolute. Will you ever trust again? Caleb asked. I trust you. Danny replaced the photo. That's enough. They sat on the porch, father and son, survivors of a war fought not on foreign soil, but in their own home. Danny watched Caleb, strong now, successful, scarred but not broken. His greatest victory wasn't destroying Eleanor and her lovers. It was protecting his son, ensuring he survived, grew, thrived. The sun set on their quiet street. Danny felt the familiar peace settle over him. Not the peace of forgiveness or forgetfulness, but the peace of justified action, of consequences delivered, of justice served. We'll always be together, he said, echoing words from easier times. Caleb nodded, understanding all his father left unsaid. The darkness remained in Danny Hayes, controlled now, but never gone. A weapon sheath, waiting to protect what mattered most. In the end, that was Danny's truth. Not the betrayal, not the revenge, not the calculated destruction of those who'd hurt his family. His truth was simpler. A father's love, turned ruthless by betrayal, transformed into something both terrible and absolute. The evening deepened around them. Two men, changed by tragedy, bonded by blood and choice and survival. Their story wasn't pretty or clean or forgiving, but it was theirs, and in their own way, they were free. Epilogue. 10 years later. The private security firm's office buzzed with quiet efficiency. Danny Hayes, now approaching 50, sat behind his desk reviewing personnel files. His company, Hayes Protection Services, had grown into one of the most respected security consultancies in the country, specializing in high-risk personal protection and corporate security. A knock on his door interrupted his work. Come in. Jake Martinez, his old surveillance expert and now head of operations, entered with a tablet. Got the report from the Singapore job. Client's happy. Very happy. Danny nodded, taking the tablet. The Singapore job had involved extracting a corporate whistleblower before certain parties could silence them permanently. The kind of work that required specific skills, absolute discretion, and a willingness to operate in gray areas. Any complications? Nothing we couldn't handle. Jake hesitated. There's something else. Gavin Marshall was found dead in his cell this morning. Danny's expression didn't change. After serving 8 years of his 20-year sentence, Gavin had apparently hanged himself, just like Eleanor had 3 years earlier. Stone remained in maximum security, a broken man who never spoke about what happened in that warehouse. Natural causes? Danny asked, though they both knew better. That's what the report will say. Jake studied his boss carefully. Wanted to look into it? No need. Danny returned to his files. The past stays in the past. The past might stay there, but its echoes remained. Danny's company employed several former military specialists, each carefully vetted, each carrying their own dark experiences. They took jobs others wouldn't touch. Not illegal, but complex, requiring the kind of skills only certain people possessed. His phone buzzed, a text from Caleb. Dad, reminder about dinner tonight. Sarah's making that pasta you like. Danny smiled slightly. His son had flourished in the decades since the incident. Now a successful aerospace engineer, Caleb had married Sarah Chun. Yes, the same Dr. Chun who'd been Danny's therapist. Their courtship had surprised everyone, especially Danny. But Sarah had proven to be exactly what both Hayes men needed in their lives. Tell Sarah I'll bring the wine, Danny texted back. His office door opened again. Ronnie Miller walked in, gray-haired but still fit, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Heard about Gavin, Ronnie said, setting a cup on Danny's desk. News travels fast. In our circles? Always. Ronnie sat down. That's 2 down. Think Stone's nervous? Danny sipped his coffee. Stone made his peace years ago. He knows the rules. Those rules had been simple. Complete silence about the warehouse incident in exchange for certain protections in prison. Stone had kept his end of the bargain, surviving where Eleanor and Gavin hadn't. Caleb asked about Eleanor last week. Ronnie mentioned. Wanted to know if you ever regretted how things played out. What did you tell him? The truth. That you did what was necessary to protect him. Danny nodded. The years had tempered his rage, but not his conviction. Eleanor's betrayal, Gavin's manipulation, Stone's violence. They'd all earned their fates. His computer chimed with a new email. Another job request. This one from a wealthy businessman whose daughter was being stalked by an obsessive ex-employee. The kind of case Danny's firm specialized in, protecting the vulnerable from those who'd harm them. Take a look at this, he told Ronnie, turning the screen. Ronnie read quickly. Sounds familiar. Guy with a military background, stalking skills, doesn't take rejection well. Like looking in a mirror, isn't it? Danny's voice held dark humor. Except we were the good guys. Were we? Ronnie raised an eyebrow. You tortured 3 people, destroyed their lives, and possibly arranged their deaths years later. I delivered justice. There's a difference. Is there? Danny leaned back, considering. The decade since the warehouse had changed him, but not in the ways people might expect. He'd grown more controlled, more precise in his methods. The cold rage that drove him to dismantle Eleanor's conspiracy had crystallized into something harder. An absolute commitment to protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. His phone buzzed again, a message from Sarah, bringing files about the new youth counseling program. Want your input? Yes, the program. Using his connections and resources, Danny had established a foundation helping children affected by domestic violence and betrayal. The public saw it as redemption, atonement for his own violent past. The truth was more complex. Speaking of justice, Ronnie said, heard from Thompson lately? Last month, still running that private military outfit in Africa, Thompson had been part of their old unit. One of the few who knew the full truth about the warehouse incident. He'd gone private sector too, though his methods were less subtle than Danny's. He offered me a job, Danny continued, leading their training division. You gonna take it? No. Got everything I need here. And he did. His company provided not just wealth, but purpose. Each client protected, each predator stopped, each life saved. It all fed something deep in Danny's psyche. The same drive that had led him to destroy Eleanor's conspiracy now fueled his mission to protect others. Jake returned with more files. Boss, that stalker case? Got his background check. Former Delta Force, dishonorable discharge for excessive force. Multiple restraining orders. Perfect. Danny's smile was cold. Set up surveillance. Full package. Like old times? Better. We're legal now. Legal, yes, but still deadly effective. Danny's firm had developed a reputation for handling difficult cases. The ones requiring military precision and moral flexibility. They weren't mercenaries or vigilantes, but they weren't conventional security either. The afternoon passed in a blur of operational details. At 6, Danny packed up, heading to Caleb and Sarah's for dinner. Their house sat in a quiet suburb, protected by state-of-the-art security systems, a father's gift to his son. Caleb opened the door, now 38, the same age Danny had been when everything fell apart. He had Danny's build but softer features, the hardness in his eyes tempered by Sarah's influence. Dad, they embraced briefly but firmly. Sarah's in the kitchen, and someone else is here to see you. In the living room, a teenage girl sat on the couch. Maria Rodriguez, 17, one of the first recipients of Danny's Foundation scholarship. Her father had died protecting her from an abusive mother, a story that resonated deeply with both Hayes men. Mr. Hayes, Maria stood, nervous but determined. I got accepted to MIT. Engineering program, full ride. Congratulations. Danny's voice softened slightly. Your father would be proud. The foundation, your help. I wouldn't have made it without you. Danny nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The foundation didn't just provide money. It offered protection, guidance, and sometimes more direct intervention when needed. Sarah emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands. Time had added subtle lines around her eyes, but she moved with the same grace that had first caught Caleb's attention in her office years ago. Danny, she hugged him warmly. We need to discuss the new counseling center. The renovation plans. After dinner, Danny insisted. Family time first. Family. The word held different meaning now. Not the false ideal he'd lived with Eleanor, but something stronger, forged in fire and blood. Caleb and Sarah, their growing circle of protected charges, the loyal operators who'd followed him from military to private sector. These were his true family. Over dinner, they discussed Maria's future plans, the foundation's expansion, Sarah's counseling work. Normal conversation, though underpinned by shared understanding of darker truths. Thompson called, Caleb mentioned casually. Offered me a consulting position. Danny's fork paused halfway to his mouth. What did you say? Told him I prefer our way of doing things. Legal. Controlled. Mostly legal, Sarah corrected with a small smile. As both wife and therapist, she understood the necessity of certain gray areas. After dinner, Danny and Caleb sat on the back porch, while Sarah showed Maria some college preparation materials. Heard about Gavin, Caleb said quietly. Did you? Self-destruction. Like Mom. Caleb's voice held no emotion. Convenient. Sometimes justice takes time. They sat in comfortable silence, each lost in thought. The past decade had brought changes neither could have imagined in that hospital room after Stone's attack. Danny's security empire, Caleb's engineering success, their shared mission through the foundation, all born from that crucible of betrayal and vengeance. The new client, Caleb said finally. The stalker case. Need any help? Danny glanced at his son. Caleb still maintained his engineering career, but occasionally assisted with technical aspects of Danny's operations. Like father, like son, though Caleb's methods were less direct. Could use your surveillance expertise, Danny admitted. Guy's tech-savvy. I'll stop by the office tomorrow. Inside, they could hear Sarah and Maria laughing. Normal sounds, normal life. But both men remembered other sounds. Eleanor's scheming, Stone's violence, the warehouse confessions. Those memories didn't haunt them anymore. They fueled them. Danny's phone vibrated. A text from Jake. Stone requesting meeting. Says it's important. Problem? Caleb asked, noting his father's expression. No, just the past knocking. Danny put the phone away. Nothing we can't handle. And they could handle it. The decade since the warehouse had honed their skills, refined their methods. Danny's rage had cooled into something more dangerous. Calculated justice, delivered with precision and patience. Caleb had found balance between his father's darkness and Sarah's light. Together, they built something unique. A family business dedicated to protecting others from the kind of betrayal they'd survived. Later that night, driving home, Danny reflected on the changes time had brought. Eleanor and Gavin were dead, Stone was broken, but their legacy lived on in unexpected ways. Each client Danny's firm protected, each child the foundation saved, each predator stopped, all part of a mission born in that warehouse decade ago. His phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Mr. Hayes, heard you might be able to help. My daughter's in trouble. Another case. Another chance to deliver justice. Danny smiled slightly as he drove through the darkness. Some men might have been broken by what Eleanor and her lovers had planned. Instead, they created something stronger, a legacy of protection, justice, and controlled vengeance. The past might stay in the past, but its lessons lived on. Danny Hayes had learned those lessons well, teaching them to his son, applying them through his work. The world held many Eleanors, many Gavins, many Stones. But now it also held people like Danny and Caleb, guardians operating in the shadows, ensuring justice found those who deserved it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Stone's request, the stalker case, foundation business. But tonight, Danny drove home content, knowing he built something lasting from the ashes of betrayal. Not just survival, but purpose. Not just vengeance, but justice. The night wrapped around his car like a familiar cloak. Somewhere out there, people plotted betrayals, planned violence, threatened the innocent. And somewhere out there, Danny Hayes and his team waited, ready to ensure that actions always had consequences. That was his truth now. Not victim, not villain, but vengeance turned to purpose. The man who destroyed his wife's conspiracy had become something more, a protector, a teacher, a force for calculated justice. The story that began with betrayal had evolved into something greater. Danny smiled again, a predator's smile, as he turned toward home. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new justice to deliver. He was ready. He always would be. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.